most people never have enough intention or intensity or velocity in the direction of the things they desire to even have a point of no return. And so what we have to do is we have to get started. And then once we get started, we have to move forward with vim and vigor like there's no tomorrow. In this video, I am going to help so many people who have been getting ready to get ready and not gotten started yet. What I'm about to share with you is a master key. It will unlock your stuckness if you will let it, even if you've been stuck for weeks, months, years, or even decades. If you will apply what I'm about to show you, it will change your life for the rest of your life. I'm going to talk to you today about this. Start before you're ready. Because the start stops most people. This is how not to let the start stop you. I talk to people and they're still getting ready 3 years later. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm going to write a book one day. Let one day be today. I'm going to start my business eventually. No, start your business now. And so I was thinking, why does this phenomenon exist? Why is it that people have so much internal resistance to starting? And I was thinking about it when I woke up this morning. My alarm clock went off at 5 o'clock, as it always does. It won't tomorrow, though. I'm sleeping until 7 tomorrow. But it went off at 5 a.m., and I know what I'm supposed to do. Get up. My mind wanted to get up. My body didn't want to get up. Get dressed. Go out on the patio. It's 60 degrees in your shorts and your tank top, and get on that assault bike and let it assault you for 30 minutes. And thinking about it, everything inside of me was saying, but why? And I got up and I got dressed and I went outside and I turned on the patio lights. I got on my assault bike and I put those headphones in my ear and I turned on my playlist for riding the bike, and I rode and panted and huffed and puffed and sweated and all the rest. And guess what? It was way worse thinking about it before I got started than it was experiencing it after I got started. Every time I get in my cold plunge, my body says, you are you're a nut. What are you doing? And I have all of this resistance physically. And then I get in it. And then I listen to this song that's exactly 5 minutes because I stay in there 5 minutes. And when the song's over, I'm like, oh, it's over already? The anxiety over how it's going to be feels so much worse than the actual experience of what? Most anything. I thought to myself, why do we do that? Why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we take things that are so good and have so much potential and then have all this internal resistance and we lock down? Why do we do it? Here's why. Because we have anxiety over past pain. We have anxiety over the future activity based on the memory of a past pain. What does that mean? Well, a couple things. One, people don't realize.
My name is Thomas. I'm the CEO of the 14th fastest growing company in Canada. When it came to sexual addiction, starting at pretty much 7, I was drinking every day. I'm smoking and I'm addicted to porn and lust. One day, my wife finds my phone.
Our body and our mind are very good at remembering pain. In fact, our body and our mind are so good at remembering pain that we will do more to avoid pain most times than we will to gain pleasure. And so when we think about doing the thing, getting something started, the anxiety that builds up inside of us when we're thinking about getting something started, it exists for two reasons. One, we remember the past pain, and two, we're either consciously or unconsciously aware of the fact that disruption always follows intention. So when you start to do something good, the first thing that shows up is something hard. And so we're resisting having to get to our second win. Once we get to our second win, they have a thing called a runner's high, right? And you get to a certain point, you feel like you're going to die. And then once you get past that point, you feel like you're going to live forever, right? But most people, in most of the things that matter in their life, they don't go long enough or far enough or fast enough to break through to that runner's high. I don't know if any of you have ever taken flying lessons, but if you haven't, I promise you, it's so much. You would love it. There's something about flying an airplane. It's just mind-blowing. But my flight instructor was sharing with me this concept called the point of no return. That doesn't sound very fun in an airplane, does it? Right, but it is. You're right. So you have a runway. We're going to do the aerial view. Okay, you have a runway, and on the tarmac you have an airplane. Okay, has a propeller on. Okay, so the airplane is going to go down the runway, and it has to get its speed up to a certain speed. And what the speed is going to be determined by how heavy the plane is, right? Let's just say it's 140 miles an hour. It needs to be going 140 miles an hour to take off. You're in a little Cessna 172. You need to be going 140 miles an hour to take off. There's this imaginary place in the runway called the point of no return. You have to be going, once you get past this, if you are going at a speed where you can take off, once you get to this point, it doesn't matter what happens. You're either going to take off or you're going to die. Like you're going to take off or you're going to, not die, but you're going to take off or you're going to crash. Like like once you get here, once the plane gets here, you can't start putting on the brakes. It's too late. So once you get here, you have to take off. Unless you're not going fast enough when you get there. What does that mean? That means you have to have enough velocity, enough speed when you get to the place where you break through in order to break through. Because if you just inch down the runway at 5 miles an hour, this is not the point of no return. It's just another spot on the runway. You say, Meyer, what's your point? My point is most people never have enough intention or intensity or velocity in the direction of the things they desire to have to even have a point of no return. And so what we have to do is we have to get started. And then once we get started, we have to move forward with vim and vigor like there's no tomorrow, like there's no turning back. You cannot inch your way up to and through success. It doesn't happen like that. You're either all in or you're all out. Okay? So the reason we resist getting started is because we have these memories of things we attempted in the past. But remember this now, correlation does not equal causation. You've attempted things in the past, they didn't work. So you assume that when you attempt things, they don't work. But maybe the reason the thing that you attempted in the past didn't work, the real reason is because you had attempted it in a way where the principles you were applying were not stronger than the principles that you were working against, right? Okay, here's what I mean. So gravity is real, right? And gravity is a force of nature, and what goes up must come down. But gravity is not so strong that flying is impossible. Are y'all tracking? And so how can a 747, let's just take a 747, fully loaded, fuel, passengers, luggage. It weighs, anybody want to guess?
Let me guess. You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself, of course I'm going to say that's a great idea. But first, let's talk about the things they don't tell you. First of all, you're going to say, I'm fine, like 300 times. Spoiler alert, your therapist will see right through that. And how does that make you feel? Yes, they actually use this phrase. And yes, they actually...
A lot. A lot. It weighs 987,000 pounds. A little 757, fully loaded with passengers and fuel, weighs 250,000 pounds. 757, 250,000 pounds. 250,000 pounds, like 40,000 feet in the air going 500 miles an hour. Everything is wrong with this picture. Well, how can that be? But how can something that heavy be that high and moving that fast? Because there are principles that are greater than the principle of gravity and weight and drag and resistance. What are those principles? Thrust and lift and momentum. So, like, if you realized that if you're applying a principle in getting started in something that's greater than the principle that's stopping you, the thing that's stopping you can't stop you anymore. That's what I say. I say it backwards one time for the people in the back row. Wow. Right. Okay. So we have anxiety over past pain. Now, if you understand, people think they have fear of the future. They have fear of failure, but there's no such thing. There's no such thing as fear of failure. It does not exist. They have anxiety over failure, but they don't fear failure. Anxiety and failure are doppelgangers. They look alike, but they're not the same. They're not even twins. They ain't even in the same family. So, but they create the same physical reaction in our body. Fear is caution over a real and present danger. I remember one time, and I know y'all heard me tell the story before, but I'm going to tell it again for those who haven't heard. This is your first time watching this channel. Congratulations, you get to hear the story for the first time. I was riding my Segway at the golf course, and because it's not a good idea to drive your car in text, I was riding my Segway and looking at Instagram. That makes sense. Wait a minute. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Fear of failure. There's no such thing. Why am I riding this? Guess what? Why am I riding this Segway? What's looking at Instagram? This doesn't make sense. I got a wake-up call. You know what the wake-up call was? I came around the corner from hole number 4, on my way to hole number 5, par 5, the comfort station on the right side. And I looked up from Instagram, and there was a 12 to 15 foot alligator laying across the cart path. My heart started palpitating. If I wouldn't have looked up, I'd have ran in that alligator. Both of us would have had a very bad day. Right? When I looked up and saw that alligator, I did not have anxiety. I had fear. Now, what's the difference between fear and anxiety? The difference between fear and anxiety is fear is caution over a real and present danger. Anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. If fear is caution over a real and present danger, if there is no real and present danger, there can be no fear. Did you hear what I just said? So failing is not dangerous. Like you perceiving that you're going to fail at something is not dangerous. It's just something that's undesirable. There's a difference between danger and undesirable. So what happens is we think that we have fear of failure. We think we have fear of success. We think we have fear of rejection. None of those things are fear. They're anxiety. Why? Because anxiety is not caution over a real and present danger. Anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. So when I'm imagining an unfavorable outcome in the future, I'm having a physical reaction in my body in the present. That's what anxiety is. By the way, if I see a 15-foot alligator laying across the cart path and I look up just in time to keep from hitting it, the experience I have in my body is the same experience people have in their body when they're expecting an unfavorable outcome in the future and they have a panic attack. Your head sweats, your heart palpitates, your breathing is shallow, right? Why? Because anxiety seems like, feels like, and creates the same reaction in our body as fear, but it's not fear. Why? Because we made the whole thing up in our mind. We're watching a mental movie. We're watching a mental horror movie about our future in our minds. Your mind is so much more powerful than you know, and if you learn how to empower your mind instead of disempowering your mind, it'll change your game, change the game for you. So what's happening? Anxiety over past pain. What does that mean? That means I'm taking pain from the past, projecting it on the screen of my future, and then stepping on my brakes in the present so I don't re-experience that pain. How many of y'all tracking?
Yeah.
That's why. This is one of the reasons why people don't start. But not only anxiety over past pain, but ambiguity over potential pleasure.
You can sell this $5 spatula on Amazon and compete with hundreds of other spatula sellers.
Like it's, what does that mean? It means it's easier for us to see clearly the pain of something not working than it is for us to feel the pleasure of it potentially working. Now, why is it so easy for us to imagine negativity and it's so hard for us to imagine positivity? Why is it so easy for us to imagine something not working, so hard for us to imagine it working? Because most of our lives, if we've ever attempted anything, we've had enough things not work to know what that feels like and to remember it very vividly. It's something about something being painful for you, it just kind of amplifies that experience. And so what happens is I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, I don't want to go through that again. I don't even know I'm thinking that. Like, I'm thinking on a subconscious level, but my automatic mind is talking me out of taking the action. And so what happens is, because I can see more clearly the thing not working than I can see it clearly working, I don't do it. I get ready to do it, because then at least I can tell people I'm working on it. Then at least I can deceive myself into thinking that I'm working on it. Am I telling the truth? And so this is what I did. I almost forgot that I did this. This is what I did. Back when I was still riding on the back of Southwest Airlines, right? Back of the plane at Southwest Airlines, I would sit down and I would write out what a perfect day in the life of Myron Golden would look like. And I would write it like a movie script. I would describe it. So that I would describe what I was seeing. I would describe what I was feeling. I would describe who I was with. I would describe how that was making me feel. Why? Because I was creating a mental movie in my imagination that I could see clearly enough that it would draw me towards it, like I saw the mental movies of the pain of the past that are moving me away from even being willing to endeavor to do it again. Is this making sense? So can I tell you some? Well, before I do, I'm going to tell you one other thing, and then I'm going to share something with you. Some things. Some reasons why I know personally that starting before you're ready is almost always a good idea. And it's not really starting before you're ready, because you're not really starting before you're ready. You're starting before you think you're ready. But I'm here to tell you, you're ready before you know you're ready. Sometimes we need somebody who knows more than we know, who've been where we'd like to go, to tell us that we're ready, even though we feel like we're not. So, one of the things that you have to do is you have to learn a concept that I call thought replacement. Okay? Because
look, you're not actually going to get anything done by watching another YouTube video. In fact, you're literally only procrastinating more. What you need is something I like to call a GYST week. That stands for Get Your Together Week. Because let's face it,
we have to stop watching, conjuring up past memories and imagining that's going to be our future outcome. We have to stop doing that. But you can't just stop doing that. You have to replace it with something. You can't just eject that movie and leave the mental VCR empty. You have to put something in it, right? And so describing what you want it to look like, and then like even if you have to close your eyes. I'm not talking about visualization. Maybe I am talking about visualization. I don't know. I'm just talking about you have to get to the place in your life where you can see more clearly it working than you can not see it not working. And so if anxiety has the ability to stop us in our tracks, and it does, anticipation. Oh, by the way, look, I used the word anxiety. I didn't define it. I told you what it does, right? I told you that anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. But let me tell you what anxiety causes us to do. Anxiety causes us to waste present energy on a future outcome that's undesirable to us in the present. Have you ever heard the phrase, worrying about something makes it happen? This is why. Because worrying about something makes it happen because when I'm worried about it, when I have anxiety over it, I'm wasting the energy I could use to fix it, worrying about it. So even if I get a good idea to fix it, I don't have enough energy left to implement that activity that would fix it. So it's a perpetual trap. That's why Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. What is he saying? Stop wasting today's energy worrying about tomorrow's problems. Okay. So here's what we have to here's what we must learn how to discipline ourselves to do in the moment when we're feeling the anxiety. First of all, we got to recognize that it's anxiety. That hesitation, that internal resistance that we're feeling for getting started, we have to recognize that that is at least the result of anxiety. It's the result of me clearly seeing that this is not going to work. I wouldn't say it like that unless I took inventory of my thoughts and I saw that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm not saying I'm seeing clearly this is not going to work. I'm asking a question that demands a negative answer. The question that I'm asking when I have anxiety. This is a surefire indicator you have anxiety. When you're asking the question, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work is a question that shows you that you have anxiety. Because if you ask, what if it doesn't work? What is your mind going to show you? It's going to show you all the things that happen if it doesn't work. What if you learn to ask yourself a better question? What if you learn to ask yourself a question that builds anticipation, which is the opposite of anxiety? And you said, man, how awesome is this going to be when it works? Instead of what if it doesn't work? Like literally just that question can change the game. So here's what you have to do. Oh, I told you what anxiety is. Let me tell you what the opposite is. The opposite is anticipation. What's anticipation? Anticipation is the energy I get when the outcome I expect is desirable to me. Let me say it again. Anticipation is the energy I get when the outcome I expect is desirable to me. It's like when you knew what you were getting for Christmas, you couldn't sleep on Christmas Eve. Why? Because your expectation of the outcomes of the next day energized you so much that you couldn't sleep. You ever get a good idea before you go to bed? Isn't that like the worst thing ever? Right? You can't sleep. Right? You're up all night because you got an idea right before you're going to sleep. And now your brain's racing. Okay. So if that's the case, if anxiety robs you of energy and anticipation fuels you with energy, the thing that I've got to learn how to do is I must learn to replace the thought that causes the anxious apprehension of the outcome I don't desire. Anxious. I'm worried. Apprehension. I stop. Like when we're concerned about something, even if we proceed how? With caution. Right? So apprehension, what does apprehension mean? It means stop. If there's a criminal on the loose and they say, we've apprehended him, what does that mean? We stopped him. Right? So replacing the anxious apprehension of the outcome I don't desire with the joyful anticipation of the outcome I do desire. And I have to do that in real time. It's easy for me to say I'm going to do it when the anxiety is not present. It requires much more intention and discipline to do it when the anxiety is there. Are y'all check? Am I? Tracking. Okay. Want to make sure I ain't speaking in code now. But clearly you are just letting it marinate and you're letting it settle in. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I didn't leave anybody. So I think about so many things that I did that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I said, well, I'm going to do this. And it's kind of like accomplishment is kind of like in itself a transformation. And what are the stages of transformation? Awareness, intention, decision, discipline, recognition, celebration. Those are the stages of transformation. Well, accomplishment is the same thing. Now watch what happens.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about the subject to know you're wrong. There's like a gazillion hours of me on the internet. In almost every case, I'm talking about the universe, black holes, the Big Bang, time travel, God. But what I'm gonna do in this masterclass is teach you how to think. The goal here is to train your mind how to see the world differently, how to question what others say. I've come to realize that there are three categories of truth: personal truth, political truths, and the objective truths that shape our understanding of the universe. The interesting thing about an objective truth is that it's true no matter what. Imagine that. By the time we're done, you will be equipped with some of the methods and tools so you can turn data into information, information into knowledge, knowledge into wisdom. We all have susceptibility to bias. Search engines on the internet are...
I decided, I got invited to speak at a conference. I was broke. Let me see, what year was this? 2001. I was broke as a joke and ready to choke. I got invited to speak at a conference in Birmingham, Alabama. And I was allowed to make an offer. But I didn't have a duplicator. I didn't have a way to make tapes. We sold tapes back then, like cassette tapes. Y'all remember cassette tapes, those things Abraham Lincoln used to listen to? Okay, so we used to sell our programs on cassette tapes, right? And so there was a cassette duplication company in Jacksonville, Florida that I used, because I used to live in Jacksonville, but now I lived in Pennsylvania, so I didn't have anybody to make my tapes. So I placed an order for this company in Jacksonville to make my tapes. It was a $1,500 order. $1,500 for me back then was a lot of, back in 2001 was a lot of money. And so I didn't have enough money for a plane ticket to fly to Jacksonville and then fly to Birmingham. So I left Thursday. They didn't let me know they wanted me to speak until Thursday. And I was supposed to speak on Saturday. So I left Thursday, and now I got to go to Jacksonville and pick up these tapes, right? And so I drive to Jacksonville from Pennsylvania. I leave Thursday afternoon. I drive all night. I take a nap, like at a rest area or something, for a couple of hours. Then I get to Jacksonville. I go pick up my tapes, and they had been doing business with me for years, so they would let me pay them later, right? So then I drove 9 hours that day to Birmingham, Alabama, to get to Birmingham that night. And then I was supposed to speak Saturday morning. Well, my coach was there. He was speaking also. And I showed him my order form that I was going to use. He said, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this way. But you can do it however you want to. I said, I want to do it the way you do it. I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I ain't, right? So, cool. So I had already printed like 600 order forms. I threw them all in the trash. Went back to Kinko's before it was FedEx office. Printed 600 more, because I'm going to speak to 700 people, right? I'm going to do exactly what Jerry told me to do. So then I ended up not speaking. I was like, oh, it's going to be later. Then finally, the next to the last person on Sunday morning before the conference ends, most of the people have already gone home. right? I'm speaking to about 135 people.
Over 8,000 men have permanently broken free from the P word by watching one single video training that you can actually watch by clicking the link